Hi, Andrew.
Hello, hello. Om Gurave Namah. Om Gurave Namah. Om Gurave Namah. Srimatre Namah. So I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to remember the Devi. It's a wonderful thing. Jai Ma. You probably have heard of me a little bit. Maybe my book, This is the Yoga of the Planets. So it is all the mantras of the Navagraha, the 9 planets. You can get that from Amazon. And my software, Shri Jyoti Star, the latest and greatest, the 10 version, available from the Microsoft Store. We're working on the mobile apps. So I thought we'd do a little astronomy first. So this is what we call the local supercluster or the Virgo supercluster. And this, you have to understand, this is a very small part of the universe. Now we can see some of the universe, but probably there's an enormously vaster area of the universe that we can't see, because you can only see so far in the universe due to the speed of light. And then inside of what we can see, this is just like a speck, very microscopic. Now, if you look in this image of the Virgo supercluster, a supercluster means, you have clusters of galaxies, and then you have collections of clusters of galaxies called superclusters. So this is the Virgo supercluster. And here you see that, I think you can see in the middle, it says local group. And probably the local group is this pixel here, this 1 or 2 pixels here. So this is us. We're the local group. So this is a view of the local galactic group. So we see there's the Milky Way galaxy, which we're familiar with a little bit. And then down here is the next largest. Actually, Andromeda is larger than we are. And then there's a lot of smaller galaxies, many smaller galaxies. See how many around the Milky Way. Here's another view of it. This is the Milky Way in the middle. And you see this is about 8 million light years each direction. So across this local group, 16 million light years. And so the Milky Way is a small dot inside of this local group. And then, of course, inside the Milky Way, we have the solar system, which is a very, very small dot inside the Milky Way. Let's face it, if the solar system disappeared tomorrow, nobody would notice. Very unlikely that anybody on any other planet in any other solar system would even notice, right? And inside this solar system, the Earth is pretty small, and then on the Earth, we are what we are, yeah? So I think if we look at this from the perspective of reality, we realize that we are just incredibly tiny, insignificant speck inside of this whole. And this is the play of the mother. We say that the universe is created through her play, her Leela or her Maya is creating this whole universe. So in order to have a relationship with her, we need to have an understanding of the relationship. So I put this quote because it's such a fantastic quote. It's like a koan. And it just blows my mind, even reading it. So if you think you're big, I'm a big person, right? I own this and I own that. You become very small. You notice that people who have a lot of stuff, they can become very small-minded. They get lost in it, you know. But it's not because they have X amount of stuff. It's just that they think they value it somehow. They don't realize in the cosmic perspective, it's exactly nothing. You see, if you know you are nothing, then you become immense. And this is the reality of this is the reality. And this is the whole Vedic system, is for us to realize our nothingness, Shiva. You see, if we can realize that, then we have some chance of a relationship with Shakti. And the fact that we can do that is the beauty of being human. Because, I don't think the animals have a chance. And if you study Jyotish, you find out that the odds of being, say in the last 4 lifetimes, the odds of having a human body or having a non-human body is pretty high. So we've all been through a few animal bodies. It's all right. But fortunately, we don't remember too much. I have small memory, but it's okay. So let's talk about the energy forms, the gifts of the rishis and the yogis. So I've called this slide magical science. It's all physics, but it's all, there's no technical stuff here. This is all easy for us to understand. But the point is that if you really look at what physics has managed to uncover, it's very magical. You see, what we know is that everything is made of energy. Now, if you look at an atom, in the atom, it's almost 99.99% nothingness. And then we have a few particles, like a proton. And a proton, actually, the mass inside the proton is very little. But most of what we think of as the mass of the proton is just the energy of the relationships between those tiny, tiny specks inside it. So, and then energy has certain properties, which are, comes from the quantum mechanics. This is the basis of everything. It's the mass with certain properties, and that builds the whole universe. Now, what we've learned is that energy is conserved. That means nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. You see, it's just reorganized. This is something very special. We look around and we see things being created and destroyed, isn't it? But the truth of the matter is that energy is never created or destroyed. It has a sort of immortal characteristic, but it can be reorganized. And the same thing goes for these quantum properties. They can't be created or destroyed. They're also conserved. You can't copy them, you can't hide them, you can't delete them. So if we look at the human, our human existence, human is just physical. But underneath the physical, we have an energy body or an energy form. And this continues because it can't be destroyed. You see, physics has proved it can't be destroyed. So when your physical system falls off, and it continues as an energy, but it just gets disintegrated it goes back to the soil, it should do. So what's remaining is the energy body, which goes to the next life and the next life, like that. The point is that an energy form is inherently immortal. We're in the habit of only seeing the physical forms. We don't see the energy forms. But the yogis and the rishis, because of their highly awakened status, they're capable of creating. It's a reorganization, but let's call it creation, energy forms for certain purposes. The gods, if we like to talk about the gods and the goddesses, they've been created. We say Kashyapa and his wife created so many of the Devas. So there are forms that have been created which are for our own benefit. For certain purposes, they've been created. So these things are there, and they exist on a sort of immortal basis. Now, what gives us a sense of an individual identity? That comes from the identification of consciousness with the form. If we cease to identify with the form might continue to exist, but we're no longer bound by it. And that's the mukti, or the liberation. So the Devas and the Devis have been created by the rishis and the yogis. And when we awaken, then it naturally attracts these forms. And the more empty we are, the more we've realized our nothingness, that means the closer we are to Shiva, the closer she comes. We're talking about the Devis here. If she comes to us, And, where will we look for her? She's everywhere in a sense. But we can attract her by our devotion. And if we get the grace of the Devi, then nothing is impossible for us. Nothing at all. She manages the whole show, you see. Now we have the Dashamar video. It's said that there's many stories, but one of the stories is that Shiva wanted to go away from Shakti for some reason. And he discovered that whatever direction he traveled in, she was still in front of him. So from this story, we learn that she is in all the directions. In the Vedic system, we talk about 10 directions because there's 8 sort of, east, south, east, and so forth, 8 directions. And then up and down, that gives us 10. So this is how she became the Dashamar Vidya, we can say. This is one of there's other stories, but anyway. They're all a manifestation of that ultimate power, or Shakti. And in Jyotish, in Vedic astrology, the 10 directions, and therefore the 10 Dashamar Vidyas, the 10 forms of the Shakti or goddess, they are related to the 9 grahas and the lagna. They can also be associated with the chakras. So there's many chakras, but there's 7 principal chakras. But the way it's organized is, as I was taught by my guru, between the Manipura and the Anahata, there are 3 Devis sort of standing in that gateway. There's a kind of vast void. If you look at normal life, basically you could say animal life, but many humans are following this also. We have the 3 lower chakras. We have the Muladhara, which is about survival. Let's face it, the first thing you have to organize is your own survival. Then we have Swadhisthana, which is to do with creation. So you want to have children, reproduce. So that focus comes in the Swadhisthana chakra. And then we have the Manipura chakra, which is power and money and all that sort of stuff. So in fact, the whole world, as it's presented to us, certainly by the media, is nothing but these 3 chakras, which is not really much different from the animal life. In order to get to the higher chakras, we have to cross this void. And there are 3 Devis which are kind of guarding this. Now, these 3 Devis are the ones representing the Lagna and the 2 nodes, Rahu and Ketu. Now, the Devis of the nodes, Chinnamasta and Dhumavati, they're like rather fierce and not easy to worship at all. And then the Lagna is Bhairavi. So it's a little easier to deal with Bhairavi. She may be a bit fierce, but she's very compassionate. That's the great attraction of worshipping Bhairavi. But we may feel more interested in one. Somehow we feel drawn to one of the Dashamar Vidya. We can very well approach any of them in the terms of the one that we love. Like if we because it's all coming from the original mother. So whatever form she's taking, Panditji is doing a series for all the Dashamar Vidya. We may have some preference, but all of them are, in a sense, the same Devi. If the Pandit worships Devi for us, and he is pleased, we will certainly get some grace, you see. There's 2 elements. If we're employing a Pandit to worship the Devi for us, then there's the element of the Pandit and there's the element of the Devi. And we certainly can get some grace from if the Pandit is pleased. That's why a lot of effort goes into pleasing the Pandits. It's good, you see, because they put all their life force into their devotion. Then, as I've explained how we can attract the grace of the Devi. It's a question of the devotion. So these 2 elements. So these are the points that I wanted to make. I'd keep it short, and maybe this is helpful. Point is that this wonderful series of yagyas is going on, and Panditji has his teams of experts, and we're keeping them alive, I guess. That's the thing. So there's some contribution from our side. When you contribute, then the benefit reaches you. That's the main thing. But if we want to really maximize our benefit, then we should take a serious, personal interest in it and try to, have some kind of relationship or connection with the goddess that's being worshipped. So thank you, Panditji.
Thank you, Andrewji. Thank you. It was very, very refreshing, and it's very much knowledgeable. Knowledge has been shared. Thank you.